Welcome to the Femsplainers. I'm Christina Sommers.
And I'm Danielle Crittenden. And welcome to our special Femsplainer survival guide to Thanksgiving.
We're going to Thanksplain.
So you're actually going to ditch me this Thanksgiving to go somewhere else, because we've often spent Thanksgiving together.
I know, and we cook wonderful things together. And this year I'm a little worried about the food because I don't think you can buy turkey where I'm going.
Where are you going? Tell the listeners.
Costa Rica.
Oh,
to the coast.
Turkey tacos?
Ooh.
What are you going to rent a house on the beach? You're not going to the jungle side, right?
No, we're on the beach. We're on a hill with a pool over a beach.
And are you going to cook?
Yes, but I don't know what. Beans and rice.
We stayed in the jungle once in Costa Rica, and I think it's the howler monkeys who are really, really mean.
Ooh, maybe we'll have monkey stew.
They throw things at you as you walk under them, and it's quite deliberate. And sometimes they'll throw their poo.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. That's discouraging. Well, I expect to see monkeys and iguana, and do they have, I don't know what.
And if they don't have turkeys, you can just roast up one of those.
Yeah, that sounds good.
We always have an argument in our family each year of what is better, deep fried turkey, which is the Southern way, or traditional roast turkey. And one year, it got so competitive as to which was better. We did one of each and then did a blind taste test. And
which one?
Deep fried turkey won.
Sounds good.
But it's the other appealed because it puts then my son and husband in charge of making the turkey, which I like. That's a big,
you have it out of the house.
Get it out of the house. But they like it because there's like the danger element, because every year you hear about
an exploding
turkey. And so the important thing is that you don't put the frozen. You get a big turkey fryer and you take it outside and you fill it with like 9,000 gallons of vegetable oil, and then you submerge the turkey in it. But the problem is if you submerge a frozen turkey, that's when it explodes. We don't do that. But then it takes 40 minutes. It's crazy quick and truly delicious. It just means you can't cook it with stuffing in it. So we'll probably do that.
Well, I'm sorry not to be with you, but next year.
Because we're in D.C., and so I thought this Southern way of doing a turkey was phenomenal. That was a great thing I've learned. The thing I cannot get my head around is other weird Southern dishes that they serve here. The main one being sweet potatoes with marshmallows.
I love that.
Who eats that?
I do.
Disgusting.
No, we had that. I will stipulate. There are a lot of things I would not ordinarily eat during the year, but I like them on Thanksgiving. And I am picky, but now as that my tastes have matured, I like sweet potatoes with marshmallows and some walnuts and maple syrup. And the people out there are with me.
What do you have for dessert?
Pumpkin pie.
Yeah, pumpkin pie's okay. Pumpkin pie's good. I don't know. I think that's just a disgusting thing. It's like people who, crumble potato chips on top of things. It just strikes me as really
I try out
weird.
Different dishes each year, and then sort of a process of elimination. I just, the best of, the ones that were popular, I keep doing it. But one year I made something that I thought was so good, which was sort of a custard corn. And people were...
Custard
I know.
Oh,
it was
a
bon appetit. And maybe the name put people off. But anyway, it was delicious.
We asked Zoe to go and just see what other weird things people may be eating this Thanksgiving in different parts of the country. And actually, I didn't think you could get weirder than sweet potatoes with marshmallows. But Zoe has proven us...
Oh boy, you can.
Because that's not even weird. That's just a tradition. This is maybe a little bit of your Canadian superiority.
Hey, then you'd think I'd like it with the maple syrup, but no, it's disgusting.
Yeah, Canadians don't eat that.
We just eat tasteful
menu.
things like poutine.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
All right, so I think I'm going to start with the least weird, and then I'm going to go to the most weird.
Okay.
So these are all weird.
Okay, and these are all real.
Yeah.
Weird and scary. Borderline. Okay.
Borderline.
Let's hear them.
So the first one is a New England dish that apparently originated sometime around the Founding Fathers coming. It changes, but it's called hasty pudding.
Oh yeah, that's a British term.
which apparently it also used to be known by its politically incorrect name, Indian pudding.
Indian pudding, Native American pudding.
And it is, quote, a deliciously simple dessert made with cornmeal, molasses, brown sugar, and spices.
Sounds delicious. Indigenous people's pudding. I've had it and I love it.
You've really had it?
No, but it sounds good.
Cornmeal, though?
Yeah.
We were given a pudding like that when we were in Greece in a beautiful restaurant.
Galatabouriko.
I don't think it was a traditional Greek dessert. The owner came over and he said, "You have to taste this pudding that my grandmother used to make during the war when we had no supplies." And it was something exactly like this. It was like cornmeal and sugar, and he put down this huge sort of cake in front of us, and it was so disgusting, but we had to eat it because it was his grandmother's wartime recipe.
All right, go on. What else?
So the middle weird one is from the South, and it is a dish that was popular in the 1960s. It is called a congealed salad.
Does it include possum tail?
No. It's also referred to as a Jell-O salad. So it's made with flavored gelatin, fruit, and sometimes grated carrots or other vegetables. Other ingredients usually include cottage cheese, cream cheese, marshmallows, nuts, and pretzels.
Oh God, that's an.
Well, that's a classic though. The Jell-O mold idea in the 50s and 60s.
It's the 50s,
but it descended from aspic. Like the high-end elegant is aspic. It's like a jellied broth, right? Like a veal broth, and then you would sort of elegantly put it with meats. But this idea that you would then take fruit Jell-O and mold it and then stick slices of usually canned fruit in it.
And pretzels and marshmallows.
But pretzels and marshmallows. And vegetables. Yeah, then they got ambitious and they started putting like carrots in it.
Well, we're not having that.
Okay, next.
All right.
Not having that.
My final weirdest one is from the southwestern region of the United States, and it is called frog eye salad. But it does not have frog eyes in it. It is a fruity pasta salad where you take pasta and you mix it with pineapples, oranges, Cool Whip, and marshmallow topping.
That sounds like something you would like.
No, I don't like
Cool Whip. Just throw in
some
sweet potatoes.
I don't like Cool Whip, but it's sounding okay.
It's pasta.
Yeah, don't take out the pasta. Just leave in the, what was it? There's ice cream?
There's some fruits and some marshmallow. That's fine.
Marshmallow element I like.
If you look at a picture of it, it's quite disgusting.
Here's what I fear. I love stuffing, but sometimes people put oysters in it.
Well, that's our region too, right? So mid-Atlantic oyster stuffing. Yeah, I have to go with you. I don't like an idea of a fishy stuffing. It just doesn't appeal to me.
Fishy stuffing.
Yeah.
Too many animals.
Yeah, too many. It's a bad surfenter, a very bad surfenter.
Or in my family, the vegetarians and vegans sometimes can be assertive.
Oh, yeah. What do you do? Because you have, at least in my family, we have no food allergies and we all eat the same thing.
They'll say, oh, we're having.
What do you do?
What do they call it? A tofu turkey. You won't be able to tell the difference. I wouldn't even taste it.
Well, there's a lot of things you won't taste.
That's true.
Remember I tried to make you, what did I recently try and make you taste?
I just didn't want that.
It was dim sum. No, it was a shrimp dumpling and you wouldn't taste it.
I like shrimp and I like dumplings, but not together.
Well, okay. But yeah, I'm with you on the tofu turkey. So we're also, the other thing that is difficult at Thanksgiving is sports. Dealing with sports.
Because they can never come to the table.
Right. Well, it's also, why do they, since half of America, I don't know, half of the sexes, I guess a lot of women watch them too.
Women do too.
But I think it's a plot that the NFL hatches against women. So it puts mostly women in charge of making the dinner while men sit in front of the television and can't be disturbed.
Do you really want the men making the dinner? Besides the outdoor extravaganzas, boiled turkeys.
Yeah, I like them doing that. But look, they can help. They can first of all, my son is a great cook.
That's true.
So, but also there's the table to be set and things, but there's something almost religious about the sports watching. And then they program it like at 2 or 3 o'clock and again at 6 o'clock. So, like, when are you supposed to eat?
I don't know, but it at least everyone's in the house. Everyone's having fun. I never minded it. I worked around it.
Really?
And hope.
Well, I have to.
But they're not going to be able to see it in Costa Rica.
No, they'll have like Euro soccer or something on, but my son is also I feel for him because he's the only person in our family who watches the sports, and it was great when your family would come over because your sons watched the sports with him, but he will go off and watch the sports
all by himself.
Yeah, and he'll also watch anything. Like if he were in Costa Rica and they were having like monkey races, he would watch those. I mean, he will watch 2 flies crawl up a,
No, I studied. I was looking at sex differences with regard to sports, and I found that sports fans, and it's mostly men and a small percentage of women, but I'm a diehard sports fan, like our 3 sons.
Yeah,
they will watch if they can't find what they want.
Yeah,
they'll channel surf, and they are the market for even women's basketball, which no one watches, but the people who will watch it, besides their families, are people that just can't find anything else. And then guys will watch it.
You know what this sounds like? It's like growing up with television in the 70s. And there was a time where there was such a limited number of channels. And you'd be home sick from school. And there'd be sort of the lunch hour Brady Bunch and, sort of kid-oriented shows. And then at 1 o'clock, it all became soap operas. And they were deadly boring. But I remember watching a soap opera because it was better than not watching anything at all. And I think sports is like that. But we're going to bring on your son, David, who's going to mansplain today. And he's going to defend this position of watching sports at Thanksgiving.
I think he will. I'm not sure. You never know with him.
Okay. Well, and then after we have David on, we're going to have a woman named Diana Butler Bass, who wrote a book called Grateful, The Transformative Power of Giving Thanks. And it's a really remarkable book. And in fact, it came out a little while ago, but I've been waiting for Thanksgiving to have her on because it is so appropriate to Thanksgiving.
And being grateful. And there's a great quote in the book from the poet Rumi. Gratitude is the wine of the soul. Go on, get drunk. I can drink to that.
That's my Thanksgiving prayer before dinner.
I'm told in Costa Rica we have to buy all of our booze at the airport. That's the best place. So,
yeah, and although the problem is then you'll have to transport it, and you guys will need to hire like
No, we have a car. We're renting a car.
Yeah, but for the amount of booze your family is going to drink over there, you're going to need a flatbed truck. But anyway, Diana, what I loved about her book, it's not a self-help book. She's a very thoughtful, I describe her as academic, but she's a sort of serious scholar of religion. But she wrote this book, and we'll get her to tell us, she was a little bit incentivized by this last election, and she started to think about gratitude. She herself called herself a gratitude klutz. She realized she never really knew she'd feel grateful for small things, but sort of gratitude is a larger concept and how it informs society and how it improves people's lives, that she decided to write this whole book about this. And what she says, at the beginning, she says, think of this book as a Thanksgiving table, one set with words. Listen to tales of gifts and grace and bring your own. And so I'm looking forward to some uplifting reasons to be grateful, because I think we're going to need that when so many of us sit around a table with relatives who drive us crazy, with family whose politics we disagree with. I mean, maybe she can give us the wisdom and grace to be able to sit there and bite your jaw and think of all the things you're grateful for.
I remember once, I think it was Thanksgiving, we were sitting around a table, supposed to say what we were grateful for, and there was this older Jewish woman, Aunt Slata, who wasn't really, she said, look, I'm not really grateful for things that have happened. I'm not. I'm grateful for what didn't happen. Well, and, it was good advice. You should be grateful for what didn't happen. If you can't think of, if you're unsettled with your
the problem is we don't know what didn't happen. We don't know that we didn't.
She could imagine. There was an asteroid that was supposed to hit the Earth. Thank God it didn't.
Well, she wrote actually to that thing. I think that's something everybody does at Thanksgiving, right? You have to go around the table and talk about what you're grateful for. And she describes it in her intro as that painful Thanksgiving exercise in which no one eats until everyone at the table says something they are thankful for. It's supposed to remind us about the meaning of the holiday, but it feels more like a turkey hostage situation than a spiritual exercise in grace. And I feel thankful when it ends. Anyway, well, let's bring on young David and let him defend sports and mansplain to us. I'm excited to have him. It's his first time on the program.
Yes,
mansplaining.
Visit. David Sommers, welcome to the Femsplainers.
Hi, David.
Thank you. How are you, not guys, how are you girls doing?
No, girls is even more microaggressive.
I don't mind it. Makes me feel young.
Me too. Okay, go on.
I can't say guys.
So, David, we're going to miss you, especially. We were talking before you came on about how our families have often spent Thanksgiving together, and with you especially, because we won't have you to lead the after-dinner game of Celebrity, which is, I don't think we can go into explaining it, but it's one of these sort of, what do you call them, like parlor games or something where it gets vicious. It just gets vicious.
You get drunker and angrier and angrier. Yeah, but it's really fun.
It's fun.
I know that doesn't sound fun.
But it is fun. It's like charades on, but
not exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So everyone writes down names, and you try to guess who the names are by using one word to describe the person.
Right.
And when people say they don't know who it is, I at least get very angry.
But yes, you do it in teams. But yeah, so we're totally going to miss you, but it means we might all be speaking to each other at the end of Thanksgiving, which I guess is a rare thing anyway for Thanksgiving in any family.
Yeah, even
that's right. I usually find out from your husband who's going to be the vice president at these things, but it's probably too early for that anyway. He knew about Kane.
He knew about what?
Hillary's running mate, like before anyone else.
Tom Kane?
Yeah, but that didn't come up in our Thanksgiving Celebrity game.
It came up at Passover.
Oh, okay. Which we play that game whenever you're in town. So
that's right.
But we're gonna get you to kind of not just mansplain, but justify sports at Thanksgiving. I mean, as people who have to cook, it's just a huge disruption.
And it goes on and on.
Goes on and on.
What's up with that?
So you want me to defend sports or sports on Thanksgiving in particular, or either one?
Either one, actually.
I think yeah, that's right. No, you don't have to defend sports. No, just sports on Thanksgiving and why?
So in my preparation for the podcast, I read 2 articles because I didn't know. I was like, why do I love sports, right? So I just Googled, why do men love sports? And I found out an incorrect explanation. So I wanted to start with that. They both said that we like football and we like sports because it allows us to compare ourselves to rivals in like a battle for reproduction. I can assure you that that's bullshit.
So it seems also a very dramatic explanation when you're sitting in lazy boy loungers with a beer. You know?
So there's that. It's exactly. It's much more for entertainment, but also unfortunately I'm not competing with Tom Brady in the same dating pool. I don't think.
It's okay. He's not dating anymore, David. Don't be intimidated by that.
He's out of the pool.
He's out of the pool. You've got now rocket chances.
Who, Brady?
Yeah.
So
to a supermodel.
He went from Bridget Moynihan to Gisele Bündchen. And that's just not, unfortunately, something I'm going to have to worry about. I don't think.
Don't sell yourself short.
No, I'm still on I don't know why we're switching this, but I'm still on the apps. So.
Oh, yes. Isn't it interesting, Christina, how quickly we move this away from the topic to David and dating? And David and marriage.
I knew it was going to come up. I'm just kidding.
Well, So tell us.
And it is Thanksgiving, so it's like,
are you bringing a nice girl to Costa Rica?
Bringing a nice girl, David.
All right, get to the second
okay, get
more
to the second article, and then we'll go back to your personal life.
No, they're both just like that. These are just, we're sizing ourselves up against these men. You know, who writes these things? Like, no one that's ever watched football. Honestly, it's a lot simpler. It's like you said, the beer on the couch. It's like incredibly, like my first instinct is just it's entertaining, and we're not very good at cooking, right? But
that's the best chefs are men. Well, not the best, but many great chefs have been men.
Well,
not in our family.
Would point out that the top 1% and bottom 1%.
Men are all over the extremes, and we've got the extreme non-cooks in my family. I mean, maybe your brother can cook a thing or two.
But a lot of it is like, you know, like my brother, for example. By the way, I heard you asked him before me. That was hurtful.
Oh, sorry, darling.
He's written a book, David, in which he talks about sports and honor and the importance of sports to society. So we were going to make this, we're going to try to make this high-minded.
And his book just came out in audio form. So
plug the book.
Why Honor Matters.
By Tamler Sommers.
And read by Tamler.
But
yeah, he battle raps in the reading. I know your listeners like battle raps.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, we don't want to know,
well,
but
then
go.
You should read it
or listen to it.
It's like sports.
So I think with sport, you know how the two of you love politics?
Yeah.
Right? Or at least I know my mom does.
No, I do, but I also like shopping.
Agree.
We like shopping.
Yeah. But there's I think a misconception is like if you watch a sports talk or listen to a sports talk radio or watch a show the next day, or even like my text with my brother and my family, like very little of it is about like, did you see that play last night, right? Or like, could you believe that play? It's usually just we like to have the debates, right? Like, should this player be in? Should the coach be fired? Where's LeBron James going, right? So it's like the sort of the controversy or the debating that we can have that I think is, I don't know, that's what interests me more than, like, I'm not texting every time, did you see that throw? It's more, why is Brady still in the game, right? Why is this guy still coaching, right? Shouldn't this player be on the bench? That kind of.
So it's a kind of way of displacing what could be super awkward, especially these days, political discussions that have people walking out of the room. That sports, you can have these conversations and disagree, and it's okay.
And the winner doesn't determine if health insurance covers pre-existing conditions, right?
Or your uncle just got drunk and he's being a real asshole to people.
That's right.
I guess you could still do that with sports.
Your uncle would never do that.
We don't racist uncle for Thanksgiving.
What?
At our family.
You do?
We don't really. I guess my mom would be the closest, but no.
Oh,
we don't.
He just compared you to a racist uncle.
Me?
Your mom? Are you kidding?
We have. That's how far we are.
Yeah, that's like light years.
And who is the racist uncle? Uncle Sonny? You're speaking about Uncle Sonny? That's a saint?
Okay, so you're taking, and I think it's the Orwell position, and I know I'm going to get corrected, but that like the Olympics and sports is a substitute for war amongst men. Is that?
And it's a way, like, I grew up in Boston, and I bond with all my friends, right? It's kind of like they're fighting on behalf of your city or your country or your state, right? But the stakes are not actually life or death, or, it's not like Trump was elected or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Is it kind of exclusionary towards women in a general way, assuming that a lot of women will go and watch the games too? But is it kind of also like maybe one of the few frontiers for men where you can all just sit around in your man cave and be men?
Yeah, and I would say in general, just homemakers have less free time. I think that's part of the problem.
Well, is it a safe space for men?
No, I don't think it's exclusionary. I don't, for some reason, there's not the same level of interest. But that would be a question. I can't explain why women don't like it. That would be for you to explain.
Why don't we like it? I mean, I kind of like it. I like it when the Red Sox are winning.
I like going to a live hockey game.
That's what I'm doing on Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's Zoe. Yeah, but that's like watching, some Roman circus of large men with sharp things on their feet trying to kill each other. That gets exciting.
But I'd still rather go to the ballet.
Well, there are a lot of other... I'm not a big ballet fan, but yes, there are a lot of things I can imagine doing. Watching sports is not one of them.
For me, it's just it's because I don't compare myself to them. Like, these are the biggest, strongest, fastest, most athletic people in the world competing against each other on behalf of my city or my university or my country, like in the World Cup and the Olympics.
Christina, I meant to ask you earlier that there used to be, and it was proven false, this, I don't know what you call it, meme trope, that on Super Bowl Sunday, women...
Yeah, battery increases. 30%.
Battery increases.
Yeah, I'm always careful of David and Tamara during this.
And on Thanksgiving.
Because even if it's not true, I heard that it's true.
But you found that this was not true, that there was this statistic, quote unquote, that went around.
On Super Bowl Sunday, battery against women increases 30%. And the year that became known in 93 or 4, there was a public service announcement on NBC urging men to remain calm during the game. And it turned out just to be, an urban legend.
And they never equated it to Thanksgiving, too, which has to be even more so of a football game.
I think Thanksgiving is dangerous because we've got sports, you've got drinking, you've got men, and I'm afraid.
You're very
You know what they did? They added, which is cruel to women, they added, it used to just be there was a 12 o'clock game and a 3:30 game, but now there's also a night game. So it's really 11 hours.
I know. I was aware of this. I was only aware of like the 3:30 and the 6 or whatever it is. But I'd even blocked out the 12 o'clock game. But it's true. Why do they put it on at 6?
That seems like an affront
at the dinner hour. What are we supposed
family
to have?
Values.
The turkey at 10 a.m.? Like, what are we supposed to do, David?
Where's Rick Santorum and the Family Values Council?
He's watching the game.
The half times are not very good. So that's we can quickly eat. And usually the Cowboys games aren't very interesting. So that's when we tend to eat. You were talking about men getting angry and drunk and aggressive during Super Bowl Sunday.
Right. Yeah.
In our family, what happened once during a Patriots Super Bowl, my brother got fairly drunk during the game, and the Patriots were down 2, about to attempt a 2-point conversion to tie it. And he was so that the moment was too big for him, and he just fell, hit his head, and went through concussion protocol. And just missed the play.
Were you there?
I was there. I was but I had to keep watching to see if we scored.
No, he needs. You know what? He needs tranquilizers when he watches these games. And he's been that way since he was 5 years. He would cry whenever the Red Sox won, and whenever they lost, and those were the losing days. And terrible times, and he gets too excited.
But you know what, David? Actually, you were supposed to make the case for watching this, and
I think you've persuaded us. Well, it's dangerous.
No, actually, I'm having a different takeaway from this. It gets the men out of the room. They are there for cleanup and stuff. And as you said, you quickly eat to watch the next game. So this is a way of not prolonging. If you're in a family where it's super awkward, or they're extended family with racist uncles or crazy Jewish aunts who are wondering why you're not dating, whatever.
Well, they don't. It's just dating a Jewish girl. They don't want me dating.
But this sort of solves what you're saying. Really, is sports solves a lot of problems.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's right. They're lazy on the couch drinking beer,
right?
But they're not talking about the wall. The wall.
They're not underfoot.
They're not underfoot. The women can go in the kitchen and drink and
make things pretty,
make things nice. We're going to get so schooled for that.
Doesn't have to be like this. I know. I'm worried.
You know what? It is like this.
It doesn't have to be, but it is.
It doesn't have to be.
It doesn't
okay, but David, so this year, instead of hanging with us, which is a loss, you're going to be in Costa Rica, where you may not get a sports game on the local television. You may be forced to watch soccer. You may be forced to watch nothing.
And no turkey, beans and rice.
Turkey?
Well, I'm definitely not going to talk to my family.
Yeah.
So
you're going to have to, you know what you should do? You should just find an inert television and sit in front of it with your brother and drink beer as if there were sports.
Still yell at each other.
Yeah.
Like that,
just keep him away from the walls.
Yeah, no, we have very different opinions on the wall, my brother and I.
Okay, but you may be thrown upon each other a little more than you like this year. You'll have to go out and watch howler monkeys or something.
You don't think Costa Ricans care about the Raiders game? Maybe not.
They might, but it's not clear that your Airbnb will have it on your TV. You're going to have to stream on poor internet. And as my husband always says, poor internet is worse than no internet.
Because it raises hopes.
I agree.
The Amtrak.
Can I ask the two of you a question?
Sure.
Or actually, really Danielle more.
Uh-oh.
So I wouldn't say I'm a huge listener to the Femsplainers.
Yeah, because it's done by your mother and children are
exempt.
No, children are ungrateful and yes, go on.
Well, okay, that's one take. But mine is that I just don't like listening to my family perform. And I wonder if you have that with David. Like when you went to the Bannon debate.
Oh, yeah, no, I watch him all the time.
And it's not stressful?
David is referring to a debate that David recently did in Toronto, which we both attended.
Yes, I was there.
It's part of a famous series called the Monk Series of Debates, and he debated Steve Bannon on basically the future of the world, future of democracy. Yeah. That one, I have to say, I was unusually stressed about because there were a lot of stakes, and it's a live audience, and they vote, and they messed up the vote and everything. But most of the time, I'm just incredibly proud of him. And I honestly, I love watching him, as they say in the British Parliament, on his legs. I love watching him speak to a live audience. So normally it's fine, but that one was very, very stressful.
But David, do you not like hearing Tamler on his podcast, your brother, on the Very Bad?
I don't. I guess part of why you like watching your husband, that could be like an attraction thing. I don't.
Are you getting back to your weird mating rituals of watching?
No.
Is this from your app?
Nothing to do with my apps. I'm not interested, but that could be why you fell in love with your husband, is watching him do that kind of thing. But thankfully, that's not why I love.
I would say he's kind of the Tom Brady of debate.
Of pundits.
And I'm kind of that just didn't work.
Yeah, you got to
the Brazilian supermodel.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That everything just collapsed right there. Just collapsed.
No, I wouldn't sell yourself short.
Aw, David.
No, I don't listen to him really either. And when my mom gives lectures and there are people in the audience, like if there are any hecklers, it's just I get uncomfortable.
Do you get stressed, on her behalf?
Yeah, definitely.
Do you get like Tucker Carlson? You want to go punch them out?
No, I just do the millennial strategy of avoidance completely. And I just don't listen, don't attend. And it's very simple.
No, it's weird. I'm joking, but we have to be forgiving towards our children that parents loom large enough and we don't need to be in their faces. But one day, when we're old and sick and dying, and you might just discover those old recordings, David.
Yeah, up in the attic. I've got my book tour from the first and second book videotapes.
And you'll say, why didn't I listen to them at the time and appreciate her more, David? Gratitude. That's our next topic.
Filial gratitude.
Episodes are timeless.
All right, David. Well, look, you guys have a great time in Costa Rica. Beware, it's not the howler monkeys, it's the other monkeys that throw stuff at you. But whatever the monkeys are,
okay,
just keep looking up while you walk through, jungle.
So this isn't the pod where you ask me 3 books I recommend? Is that a different one?
No, you know what? That's a totally different podcast, David.
Or just give us one and that's it.
Then you're out of here.
We've already done Why Honor Matters. So The Glass Palace, Amitav Ghosh.
I'm writing.
It's our book club book, so you can draw whatever conclusions from that.
He's in a book club.
You want.
David and 7 women.
Pretty girls.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah. And all Jewish. Yes, go on.
No, Jewish, yes. And Harry Potter, Goblet of Fire. I'm reading them for the first time, and I don't know if your listeners have read the Harry Potter books.
Oh, okay. You know what? That's a whole other conversation. But
yeah,
it's such a ripoff of Lord of the Rings. That we're just going to get into a whole other. You know what? If you were here at Thanksgiving, there would be a fight. There'd just be a fight.
It'd be one of these Super Bowl Sunday.
It would be terrible. I have so many thoughts on this, but we're not going to talk about them.
Oh, last thing I want to get you out of here on this. I forgot to mention an important part of sports.
What?
Which is gambling. And that's really all that it is. I should have started
gamble?
with that.
Do you gamble, David?
I do successfully, I would say. But it's gambling and fantasy sports. And that could have been, I could have just said that and not wasted your time. That's it.
You didn't waste our time, but that's not what you're doing on Thanksgiving, or are you gambling while we're...
They're gambling. In college, his brother was a big gambler.
It's actually even easier because most of the websites are based in Costa Rica anyway.
Or you can access them.
In college, his brother was called... What was his nickname? Money? They just called him Money Sommers because it was all...
Money Sommers.
And then David is Money...
That may have been anti-Semitic.
No, they were all... And then David was Money Jr.
Money Jr. All right, Money Jr. Have a great trip.
Yeah.
I'll be there in celebrity and spirit on your team, David.
All right. I love you both.
Too.
And I'll see you soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Au revoir.
Bye.
Hey, Danielle, are you having a lot of company staying with you over the holidays?
Yes. My 2 eldest kids are flying in from California, plus my mom and nephews are coming in from Canada. And my daughter's bringing her little dog, my grandpup. It will be a full house.
Well, it sounds like you could use some new sheets.
Yeah, for sure. The problem is I hate buying cheap sets that don't last or are scratchy or shrink when you wash them. I like my guests to feel welcome and like they're sleeping in a 5-star hotel or a dog-friendly 5-star hotel.
Yes, well, my Brooklinen sheets are the most comfortable I have ever slept on. They have more than 30,000 5-star reviews, more than any other online bedding company. And they are like 5-star hotel quality.
So I assume they're a 5-star price.
No. What's even more amazing about them? Most of the bedding you buy in stores from retailers is marked up like 300%, but Brooklinen gives you luxury sheets without the luxury markup. You have a choice of classic or luxe packages that include everything you could possibly need. Sheets, pillowcases, duvet covers, and the colors and patterns are simple and modern. It's one-stop, affordable, and easy shopping.
Well, it sounds like they could make great gifts, too. I know my older kids could definitely use some new bedding for their apartments, and maybe I'll gift myself some new sheets, too.
Well, no better time than now. Brooklinen.com is giving an exclusive offer just to our listeners. They will give you $20 off and free shipping when you use the promo code FEMSPLAIN at brooklinen.com. Brooklinen, these really are the best sheets ever, and your guests are going to agree.
My grandpup, too.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but
welcome to the program. We're so thrilled to have you here. Your book is, of course, Grateful, The Transformative Power of Giving Thanks, and no more perfect an occasion to have you than Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's a wonderful holiday, even though it is causing some people some stress this year, I think.
I think like last year and this year, super stressful. And we're kind of trying to do a podcast survival guide. And we thought that your message on gratitude was so interesting and transcendent even that you could get through anything if you just read this and thought about what gratitude means.
Well, I appreciate that. For me, it was a surprising book to write, since I'm a liberal Democrat, I'm a feminist, and here I was contracted to write a book on gratitude during 2016 and 2017. So it was not a time in which I personally felt very much gratitude coming from anything going on in our culture, but it was that environment that really made me struggle past a sort of trite definitions of gratitude or gratitude as a happy pill. I had to really go deeply into the subject and understand what gratitude is and how it creates the capacity for people to be in relationship with one another. So it was quite a journey for me at a difficult time. And so I actually love talking about it right now, even though a lot of people find gratefulness hard at the moment because of political division.
Mm-hmm. Christina here. I just wondered, do you have a formula for making America grateful again?
That's what we need to have.
Yeah, in the middle of it, of course, my husband, he was actually worried about me not being able to come up out of the muck, politically. And so at one point he made me this hat. It says, "Make America Grateful Again." And
wait, you actually have the hat?
I do actually have a hat. It's purple. People are always asking me to sell the hat.
Oh, it's great. It's great.
But what is the formula? How can we? Yeah, what is gratitude? And there are many definitions and misuses of the term. But how do you define it, and how do we get it? Why do we need it?
Yeah, the way that I define gratitude is our emotional and our ethical responses to gifts. And that seems like a pretty, simple sentence, that when someone gives you something, be it a friend, a relative, the universe, God, however you perceive where the gift is coming from, we have some sort of reaction to that. And our emotional reactions are often like, oh, I can't believe that, So in a very real sense, when we get a gift, our emotional reactions are what we experience first. But then, yeah, that's nice to have an emotional moment with a gift. What usually happens with gratitude is that you get called into the next step. And that is, well, what do you do about that? Do you say thank you? Do you pass another gift on to someone else? Do you tell the giver how much you appreciate the thoughtfulness of the gift? So you have an emotion, and then you make a choice as to how you're going to respond. So gratitude involves both of those things, our emotions and then our actions. So one of those is less easy to control, our emotions, but our actions certainly should be considered, and it's a way that we recognize the good that others have done for us. So that's the simplest definition of what gratitude is. And even though it does sound simple, the complexities come up rather quickly, because what happens if somebody gives you a gift you don't really like? Or what happens if it's something you think, well, I don't really want to have. I can't see that as a gift. Somebody intends it as a gift, but you don't see it as a gift. So stuff starts emerging from that sentence. But at its simplest level, it's our emotional and ethical response to gifts.
Well, I like this idea that you explained that there were two types of gratitude. That's simplifying it, obviously. That it was beyond the sort of transactional quid pro quo that we think of. And you had the me and we of gratitude. And so there is that me, like you give me something, you do something for me, I have my reaction. But then you talked about the we of gratitude. And one of the things I thought, you say you were commissioned to do this book before the election, or I guess the election influenced your reaction, I would say to the we of gratitude, because the we, as you write, refers to what it means to live together as a thankful society. And you think we're failing at that kind of communal Thanksgiving. And I suspect the election and the politics feeds into that.
The contract for the book, so, when you write a book, publishers give you contracts. And so I got the contract for the book on April 1st, 2016. So that was in the middle of the, earliest part of the election season. And, when I got the contract, I was thinking that I was going to be writing a book mostly about my own sort of personal failures to be appropriately grateful, because I've always struggled with gratitude. And I share
you hate thank you notes, right? You just hate writing them.
I hate thank you notes. And that's where I start the book, was when I literally got a thank you note for writing a thank you note. And I remember when I got the note and I didn't know what to do. I thought, what's the rule for this? Do you write a thank you note in return for a thank you note for which you've written a thank you note? And at that moment, I remember thinking, oh, I just hate this whole thing. I just give up. and so that's where I started the book. And that's really what I had assumed it was going to be, sort of a personal exploration from a woman who struggled with gratitude, who did not take it, for whom it didn't come easily. But then, as the whole election cycle was unfurling around us in 2016, I got to the point where I was so disturbed about what was going on and all the anger and the political rallies and everything, how people seemed to be hating one another. I literally called my publisher and said, look, I can't write anymore. And I'm going to do some more research, but don't expect any pages from me until after the election is over. And I said, I promise you, on November 9th, I will get back to writing this once everything goes back to normal.
Yeah, we were all hoping. We're all still hoping for normality.
Yeah, and so then, of course, it doesn't go back to normal, and it gets worse. And I spent the last weeks of 2016 just, basically trying to get out from underneath my blankets at home and realize that what had just happened was real. But then I get into January and I think, oh my gosh, I have a book deadline and I've got to get back to this. And so now I'm writing a book that's not only about an individual woman who's struggling to embrace gratitude in her own life, but apparently I was living in a culture where gratitude was widely misunderstood. And a lot of people were having trouble with feeling grateful. So my whole attention was turned to the subject. And as the first weeks of the Trump presidency, unfolded, it was really interesting. I began noticing how much Trump talked about gratitude. And the way he was...
To him. Where was it?
Yeah, exactly. The way that he was talking about it was as a demand. Mm-hmm. And he was literally saying that, I've done X, Y, Z, and you owe me thanks. And when I began to see that, I went, oh my gosh, well, I don't want to be grateful like that. And with the realization that Trump was working out of a different social structure of gratitude than what I knew to be the case out of religious tradition and out of philosophy, that gratitude couldn't be a demand, it couldn't really be a debt, that it had to be something different. It has to be about freely given gifts and a freely given response. So that framed up a whole different narrative of gratitude for me, the contrast with Trump's demands for thankfulness versus a truly ethical vision of gratitude that can create community.
And do you think that, what I'm thinking is, did you actually take the election that personally? It had, I had my feelings about it, but it sounds like it had a tremendous impact on you.
I did feel pretty upset. I felt very upset about it emotionally. And one of the reasons why is in the book. I talk about the things that oftentimes block our ability to feel grateful. And so when I wrote the book, I knew I wanted to tell my own story that was a Me Too story. And so for the first time, I've written 10 books, and this was the first time I had ever shared in public a story about being abused by an uncle when I was a young teenager. And for me, the election of Donald Trump was right in that territory. And I know, dozens and dozens of other women personally who were very upset by the election because of the Access Hollywood tape and Trump's attitudes towards women, and our own experiences, whether they were experiences of assault or abuse or just a sort of a heightened awareness of discrimination, that women were upset. And I was one of those women who was deeply personally upset by what I had heard coming from President Trump's mouth, and the fact that I could not believe that fellow citizens would elect someone who had these overt attitudes towards women. So that was really the emotional territory that I had already been exploring, writing a book about gratitude, but then that territory was made all the more difficult by the election.
Well, this is the part of, we could even call it a gift of Trump, where the very act of the election and the feelings it stirred up caused you to maybe push even further into this larger idea of gratitude and community. I'd like to pull it away from the partisan, because I don't think you have to be a Republican or a Democrat or a Trump supporter or a non-Trump supporter to acknowledge how divided we are, how angry people are, how bunkered down we are in our own little trenches. And what I loved about this book was your ability to step beyond our own personal feelings and our personal experiences to talk about the concept of gratitude for the society that we referred to. And you had a really great distinction where you said we are able to appreciate sort of private acts of generosity and be grateful for them, but we're very publicly discontented. And it's kind of a dual consciousness. Like, explain that division of how we've lost that sense of communal Thanksgiving.
Yeah, one of the things that caught my attention early in the project was that 78% of Americans said that they felt strongly grateful in any given week. And that number really surprised me because it was so high. And I thought immediately, hey, well, that's great, because one of the things that I knew to be the case about gratitude is that psychologists all say, oh, gratitude is good. Gratitude drives out toxic emotions. Gratitude makes us less stressed. Gratitude gives us better outcomes with health and other kinds of challenges in our lives. And so immediately I was kind of puzzled by, on one hand, this number being so high that I knew that meant something good about us as Americans. But then when I looked at our political life, I wasn't seeing the transfer from private gratitude into a larger sense of community. And so I thought, well, if gratitude is good for us as individuals, why wouldn't it be good for us then as well in community? And so over the last 2 years, first the writing of the book and now the last several months talking about the book and events, I do talk about the political angle of it. But I always ask people, I say, when I talk about Donald Trump or when I talk about what's going on in America, I'm only using this as an example of how we're deploying gratitude in our midst right now. And I don't think, frankly, either political party understands gratitude very well. We have a very corrupted language of gratitude where we talk about entitlements and benefactors and benefits. And we always do it in this way of debt and duty, takers and makers, you owe me X if I give you Y. Anybody who has any sort of political sense about them can see how our whole political culture is corrupted by quid pro quo.
Also, I would just add one of the things you point out is that gratitude is a demanding emotion, and it's a complex emotion. Whereas something like anger and rage and fear and resentment, and those can be, we could stir those up in ourselves very easily, thoughtlessly, and they do seem, as you said, to be dominating the political culture right now.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of the gratitude literature talks about, how those primal and negative emotions come from the oldest part of our brains, that which we call, the reptilian brain. And fear, it arises in sort of the back of our brain and very easily takes over the whole of our thought processes. And then we start acting very quickly out of these sort of negative and toxic emotions. Gratitude researchers have discovered that when a person is actively practicing gratitude or other complex emotions like empathy and compassion, what those emotions do, they arise in the more evolved parts of our brains, and they begin to form a screen that block the response out of our toxic emotions, so that when you feel afraid, if you're also a person who has active practices of gratitude in your life, when the fear arises, it literally bumps in to gratitude. And gratitude slows that transfer of fear into just random action. It slows that transfer down and gives us the capacity to think more deeply about, okay, well, how do I want to react here? Do I want to react by just shooting what I'm afraid of? Or do I want to react by stopping and examining the situation for a second and seeing what my options are? And of course, in communal situations, in situations of politics and social life, it's better to have that extra moment. I frequently use an example that this summer I was out hiking in the Wind River Range in Wyoming. And before I went on the hike leader had said, we've had a lot of trouble with mountain lions this summer, so be looking out for mountain lions. And lo and behold, my husband and I are walking up this path, and this creature comes around the corner, and it was kind of golden colored, and it was coming at us really fast. And I thought, oh my gosh, a mountain lion. And so the fear piece just jumped to the front of my brain. And had I had a gun, I would have shot the animal. I did not have a gun. Instead, I had one more second to sort of stop. I examined the situation. It was a golden retriever.
I was going to say it's a Labrador.
And its owners came around the bend right after it did. And so instead of being attacked by a mountain lion, or me, I was actually being greeted by this, really friendly, goofy golden retriever in that way that they do. And so that's what we need to do in our body of politic, is that we're also prone to see the thing that we're afraid of most right now, that we don't actually see, that is a golden retriever and not a mountain lion. And we're ready to shoot first and ask questions later. And, oh my gosh, if I would have shot a dog, I would have just, fallen into a puddle. I would have not been able to live with myself. So that's the kind of thing that gratitude does, is that's what it gives you, the capacity to just see right around the corner, one thing more that you wouldn't see when fear takes over your brain. And so that's what I was trying to encourage people to really do with gratitude.
On both sides of the political debate. I mean, a little more understanding of people's
that person you're immediately assuming is a mountain lion is, of course, a wonderfully goofy, sweet, could be a wonderfully
Trump
goofy
supporter.
Golden retriever. You wrote, and I know we have to not be alarmist when we make these comparisons, but you set it up very well. You compared a little bit of our time to 1930s Germany, which goes on a lot. No, this was good. This was good because obviously that can be an extreme comparison. But you had a very specific comparison about how people, this very sophisticated German society was reacting. And you quoted a pastor Bonhoeffer who went on to resist Hitler. And he said, in normal life, one is not at all aware that we always receive infinitely more than we give, and that gratitude is what enriches life. One easily overestimates the importance of one's own acts and deeds compared with what we become only through other people. Can you just explain that pastor and his quote in context of 1930s Germany and where you see its parallel today?
I think that Bonhoeffer, when he looked out over his own society, and one of the things he was reminding his fellow Germans of was how deeply bound together their lives were. And there was a lot of anger in Germany in the 1920s and 30s, for the loss of World War I and the fear about the economic future of the nation, and just a lot of the pressures that were beginning to come to play in Europe at the time. And so Bonhoeffer explained this. He used the word cheap grace to describe it. He said, we've fallen back on a kind of cheapened grace where we don't really understand that our lives are full of gifts and that we depend on each other. So that's the place where I went to make the comparison. I don't want to call people Nazis or say XYZ, we're all, it's all going to be like so-and-so is Hitler. But what I was trying to do with my own book is look out over our culture. And I'm fascinated by the fact that in a very real sense, there certainly are huge structural challenges about the distribution of wealth and the shift of the economy from, a manufacturing economy to technology and service and creative economies. All of those things are huge issues. But when you look at, graphs about social well-being and violence and all of these kinds of things, the United States has actually got higher indexes of well-being now than we did 20 or 30 years ago. So there is unfairness, there is inequity, there are issues to be addressed, but we really still are surrounded by gifts in abundance, an amazing political system that should be responsive to our needs. All of these different kinds of things are part of the culture we live in and what we bear historically, and yet we take them for granted. And I think that forgetting those gifts, the things that surround us, and the fact that our lives are really wrapped up in a web of interdependence with one another has been to our detriment, that we have not been sufficiently grateful. And I was really surprised this year, Jonah Goldberg, who writes for
Yes, he's my colleague. Here today.
Yeah, I mean, I was really surprised when he came out with a book where it was called, I think, Suicide of the West or something.
Yeah, a cheerful,
very dramatic title. But his book, and here's somebody who is completely the opposite political spectrum than I am, would have very different solutions to some of these same problems. And yet he analyzed the basic problem at the heart of sort of American anxiety right now as our fundamental lack of gratitude. And so when I saw that book being reviewed and him talking about that book in the media, I went, that is really, truly remarkable to have a a really progressive Democratic woman come to that conclusion, and then to have an editor at National Review come to the exact same conclusion. So maybe this is a problem.
It's funny.
Oh, no, there's hope.
It gives me hope, because I thought one thing that all of the rancor around the election and so forth might accomplish is that Americans on both sides of the divide will finally agree that we need to do a better job teaching civics and history and how our system works. And living in Washington, D.C., you go past Arlington Cemetery. You can't help but then feel connected to people who sacrificed and made possible all the things we take for granted. And I just worry that appreciation isn't being passed along, and people don't understand what we've inherited, and it's the responsibility we have to protect it and understand it and teach it to our kids.
And talk to people who have different views than we have and find that commonality. So that leads me to ask you, Diana, tips for survival at your family Thanksgiving table? Do you have anything to offer?
I have been asked that question more than any other single question.
Oh, well, good. Then you have, I'm sure, a great answer for it.
Well, I'm not hosting Thanksgiving this year. I'm actually a guest at someone else's dinner. And I'm encouraging people to think about that. It depends on whether you're the host or whether you're the guest as to what happens at Thanksgiving. And if you're hosting it, you have a responsibility to make sure that all of your guests feel safe and feel welcome at the table. And I'm just have written a piece actually today. I don't know where it's going to appear yet, but I suggest that people do things like create a menu of rules for the Thanksgiving dinner table. And hosts should not assume this year that people will get along or be well behaved. That's a bad assumption. So if you come up with a list of rules, I suggested that it be, sort of funny / serious, and have on your list of rules things like no fights over white or over dark versus light meat.
Actually, those are maybe the fights to have, or just run a trivia competition or something.
Well, those are some other things I suggest. Have a gratitude jar where when people arrive, have them scribble down something they're thankful for and throw it in the jar. And instead of going around the table and forcing people into saying things they're grateful for, which
is stressful.
Yeah, it always feels like a Thanksgiving hostage situation.
Right. Or competitive. Like who's got the best, thing they're grateful for.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm more grateful than you are.
And what I didn't like? I think where gratitude got off with a bad start with me was as a little kid, you'd have to be thankful for your food. And as a child, you're not really unless you've starved, which we have.
Or as it used to say, well, the little kids in Biafra, which was that starving place at the time of our childhood.
And you didn't know where it was or what it was about. And
you felt bad. You felt bad,
but did you feel grateful for the...
Well, no, you're saying, well, what is that? Why can't that kid in Biafra take my broccoli,
Yeah, because I usually didn't even want to eat what was on my plate.
So I'm encouraging people, hey, have a jar, have a little bowl, and just throw paper in there, and then maybe at the Thanksgiving table have someone draw out a couple of those little slips of paper and then have them read it. So instead of you giving your own Thanksgiving, you're sharing something that someone else has written down, and just do a couple of those, to start the dinner. And there are things that you can do. You could have conversation starters. I've suggested people ask folks for a Thanksgiving memory that was beautiful or funny. And so instead of talking about this Thanksgiving or what's going on right now, talk about something in the past.
Well, I like that.
That's really nice, actually, yeah.
Yeah, when your grandmother was alive. And all of a sudden what you're doing is you're reframing what might be tensions now with good memories. So I think that's great. So those are the things that hosts can do. There's all kinds of wonderful things that you can set a table where people don't have to fight. And then if you're a guest, the single most important thing to do is remember you are responsible for your own behavior.
Thank you. Yes.
Period. And so if your, crazy Uncle Joe comes at you with a MAGA hat, or if your sister with a She Persisted T-shirt starts pointing down on you,
yeah,
you get to respond to that.
No. Yeah, you don't get to. You just let it roll over you, right?
That's right.
Right.
You laugh, you make a joke out of it, you say you love the person, you offer them a piece of pie, whatever. But you choose a good response instead of one that escalates pain.
Right. Right. Okay. Well, those are absolutely great things to remember. And I think especially this Thanksgiving, aside from the politics, heading in to this Thanksgiving after the incredible fires that have ravaged California and the mass shootings that we've all endured.
And we just missed, I think there was something strange going on in the universe. There was maybe we were invaded by...
Oh, the alien.
An alien.
Oh, the alien.
Yes, the alien.
Let's hope they're friendly.
Okay, that just took it for a weird turn.
Oh, sorry.
We were on the shootings and the fire.
Probe.
Yeah, the alien probe. That's right. But anyway, I think all of us can find things to feel grateful for and to think of those who have less and who are really, really struggling this Thanksgiving. So,
yeah, and the final suggestion I have for people is if you just can't do it, if you just can't have a meal with people that would upset you so much, or something's going to happen that would be so disagreeable, go volunteer.
Yes, great idea.
Just go have dinner at the local homeless shelter, or go visit a cancer ward, or something like that.
Sit with lonely people in an old age home.
That is exactly right. Because there are plenty of people who are alone, and there's no reason for you to be alone and moping and being mad at your mom or whatever it is.
Right.
You can find people to serve, and serving people always puts things in perspective.
Can I add one petty thing, although that was the perfect note to end this podcast on? If you're a guest and you don't eat stuff, can you just be quiet? Can you just push it off your plate? Like, not make a big deal.
Are you looking at me?
No, I was not looking at you.
And I do. I separate it. I cut it up into little pieces and push it around my plate. And don't say
that host who is knocking herself out does not want to hear about your allergies. She doesn't want to hear, she doesn't know always where the turkey comes from. I know where my turkey comes from, but you don't always know where the turkey comes from.
No.
Just don't make it worse. And we've lost that
big deal.
We've lost that, when you invite someone to your house for dinner, you're not supposed to dictate as guests the menu.
And there's one more thing. I like to fight at the table.
Oh, no. Okay. No.
I do. My family, we like to bicker.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine. But we're going to try discourage that this year. And you won't be.
Well, you'll see.
Well, there are some families that do it well.
Yeah, that's true.
But I do think that this year we got way more families who are dreading what's going to happen than who know how to bicker well. So maybe you could write a book about productive bickering.
All right, Diana, well, you have just a beautiful Thanksgiving. Thank you so much. The book, Grateful, The Transformative Power of Giving Thanks by Diana Butler Bass. I think you should just bring this as a hostess gift to your Thanksgiving dinners and we're use very that as your discussion points.
Very wonderful book.
We're grateful.
Oh, thank you. It is wonderful to talk to you, and I just hope we can make America grateful again.
We're with you. I'm getting the hat. All right, thank you, Diana.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, Christina, that was nice. I'm going to work very hard to be more grateful this Thanksgiving. Give more thanks.
Yes. I'm going to try to.
And this is our first Thanksgiving as a podcast, so we have to express gratitude to our listeners whom we love.
Yes.
And I'm going to express gratitude for your friendship, which is the whole thing that led to the podcast.
I know. I'm very grateful for my co-splainer.
I'm gonna miss you this Thanksgiving.
I know. We won't do this again next year.
We can never do this again.
Never again.
We can never do this again. But you know what? There was a beautiful quote in Diana's book, which I think we could probably end the podcast on, and while wishing all of our listeners just a beautiful, survivable Thanksgiving. Here is from a Catholic spiritual writer called Henro Nouwen. He wrote, "To be grateful for the good things that happen in our lives is easy, but to be grateful for all of our lives, the good as well as the bad, the moments of joy as well as the moments of sorrow, the successes as well as the failures, the rewards as well as the rejections, that requires hard spiritual work. Still, we are only truly grateful people when we can say thank you to all that has brought us to the present moment." So thank you.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.